In this episode, I chat with Audrey, a remarkable dialect coach who shares her incredible journey with us, from acting to coaching many clients, including Oscar-winning actor Daniel Kaluuya. She has interesting insights into our industry and shares her thoughts about how to grow your business and career if you're like us. And I'm sure you'll find this conversation as helpful as I did, so thanks for giving it a listen. Now, let's get on with the show. I'm Bianca, your personal American accent coach, and I'm here to help you master an American accent in English because your voice is your choice when it comes to how you sound. I try to release a podcast episode every 2 weeks, and so you should really subscribe to whatever podcast platform you use so that you don't miss the newest episode. And by the way, if you want to see the full video of the episode, it's available at Accent Coach Bianca on YouTube. Now, let's get on with the show. Hey, Audrey, so nice to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Bianca. It's so nice to see you as well.
I'm really excited because now I get to talk to somebody who is adjacent to the field. We're going to talk about the differences between accent coaching and dialect coaching because you're a dialect coach, and women in our field and what that's like to grow a business, because I think it's something I don't get a lot of chance to talk about with other people who are at the same level, even though adjacent to me. So I'm really excited about that.
I think we have a lot of overlapping parts, so it's going to be a really fun chat. And it's true, we are lone wolves. And so we never get to talk to our own types. So it's always so exciting to be like, oh, wow, you nerd out on voice sounds and exercises and helping people communicate. Cool, me too.
YPA? Oh my God. Yeah. Like
exactly.
you can't help yourself from repeating things. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned something like off camera, is that the idea of not being able to do things alone and the idea of community too. So I always love finding people who maybe are going it alone, but they're not necessarily lone wolves in the idea that they don't want to share their experience. They don't want to do that. That's not who I usually connect with. I connect with people like you who are like, we're in this together. Let's learn from each other. It's not a competition. The pie just keeps getting bigger. And so you don't have to worry about the slices of the pie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Yeah,
have growth mindsets. We don't feel like the work is limited. And
exactly.
actually that's changed for me. So I'll give myself an introduction first. My name is Audrey Lacrone. I was an actor and I came up by going to acting school. And while I was going to acting school, I was running the university's tutoring center. And so I was teaching English to foreign grad students from all over the world. And I loved doing that. So when I got out of school and realized I was a terrible waiter and also that I couldn't make a living just acting, I started tutoring adults and teaching English to adults. And then it morphed and I started teaching different kinds of business people more Americanized accents, something that I still do today, similar to you. So basically now that was 10 years ago that I'm in my 10th year of business of freelancing. And I split my time teaching business professionals of all different fields. I've taught people from over 70 countries now. And for them, it's mostly either teaching a more Americanized accent. So, for instance, if they are having a lot of colleagues or clients who are Americans who will pretend to not understand them or who will make them feel othered because of their accent, they'll work on being able to turn on and off an Americanized accent, or we'll work on communication skills or public speaking skills. I do all sorts of things. Like sometimes I write speeches for diplomats. I don't know. Kind of whatever the needs are, then I'll meet those needs. And then the other branch of my business is working with actors. So I work with either up and coming actors who are doing auditions and they need an American accent or another accent. And then I also work on set or sometimes on Zoom on a set.
Zoom set.
Yeah, I zoom into a movie set. And with that, I've gotten to work with incredible talent from around the world. I think the most notable thing would be in 2021, I got to work on the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, of which my client Daniel Kaluuya won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Yeah, and he won the BAFTA and Golden Globe and SAG Award and whatever else. And then I was teaching.
Oh, wait. I'm gonna interrupt you if that's okay.
Please.
It's funny that you mentioned Daniel Kaluuya because I just started my YouTube channel recently, and one of the very first videos that I did was, I don't know if you know this, he was in the Spider-Verse movie and he was the London punk there. So I'd made a whole video on the Camden London punk accent with who? Daniel Kaluuya. So I didn't even know that about you. That's such a
Yeah,
cool
that's my client.
thing.
So usually when he's speaking in any sort of American accent, I'm coaching him for that.
Nice. And let me ask you a question. Is it true that he hung out at the Costco in Ohio to pick up the Ohio accent? I've read that somewhere.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
he was working with another coach when in the first week of Queen and Slim, because that
mhm.
was what he was doing the Ohio accent for.
Yep.
And then they set that accent. Her name is slipping my mind right now. She's a professor up there.
Mhm.
And so they designed the accent together, and then I coached him the rest of the time on set. And that was when we
Oh,
met.
gotcha.
And now I've worked with him on every other project that he's
Oh,
done an American accent
fantastic.
on. Yeah,
That's
yeah. Like we got to
exciting.
do
There's another
Dope,
link. Mhm.
and we got to do SNL, Judas and the
Uh-huh.
Black Messiah, Queen and Slim. Yeah, he's
Oh,
wonderful.
that's fantastic. Oh,
So
that's
I
exciting.
have no doubt that he hung out at the Costco because he is so dedicated to his craft and he's got
Mhm.
such a good ear of just picking up sounds.
Yeah.
And yet, even someone with a genius ear has to train really hard. And he
Mhm.
still has someone like me to kick his butt after every take and be like, your O
Mm.
is off, or your whatever is off, or let's get this sound, or your blah, blah, blah.
Do you feel weird sometimes? You're like, I don't want to be picky, but I do. And I know you want me to be picky right now. So we're going to look at that one little sound here. And I love that because it shows to me how good someone has come or how far they've
Yeah,
come and how good they can be on their own. And I can say, you know what? All these other things, you nailed it. Put that little O right there. I know you can do better. I
right.
love that. Yeah. I don't know
I
if
do
you have
too.
the same.
Usually you work with however much the actor or the person can handle.
Totally.
So
Totally.
someone like him, I know how much he can take and it's a lot. So I'm going to
Hmm.
push him to his limit and he gets awards. So it's worth it sometimes to push people. And other
Absolutely.
times
Yeah.
people just need love. They just need to
Hmm.
be like, I have one client who will just be like, hey, you weren't breathing for that whole take. Let's just breathe.
Hmm.
Let's just
Hmm.
chill out
Yeah.
and be present. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's something else I love too about our work is everything is so tailored to the person,
Mhm.
to what they need. The better you know them, the more effective your help can be for them. And that's something I love
Right.
too because it shows the connection you have with that
Yeah.
person, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, how
you're
much so many times I've had like husband and wife teams. I have
Oh yeah, me
twins
too. I love that.
sometimes. Yeah.
Mhm.
You get to hear all the stuff at the same time they get lots of practice. I love that kind of thing. Yeah.
I
I
know
love
it's
helping people in whatever they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes me so excited to do the work that we do every day because even after 10 years it doesn't get old because everyone has different stories and different needs and
Hmm.
it's so inspiring.
Yeah. Or sees something in a different way that I never even thought of. Or we'll
Mhm.
have this maybe, I don't know, cultural device that reminds them of something. And I'm like, oh, that's good. I will use that. I never even thought of that.
Mhm.
And they have something from their background that I couldn't have known. And so
Yeah,
I think that richness just makes us better at our jobs too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It
But
it
you said
it,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
it enriches our life so much. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. And you said you've been working for 10 years now in the field. How
Mhm.
did that come about? How did it start? Give us a little walk through your history.
When I got out of college, I was tutoring English, like I had said, and a Russian doctor and his secretary in New York City put out a call on a tutoring website that I was on. And they were saying, like, oh, my patients cannot understand me. Like, I
Hmm.
need some help, like, Americanizing my speech. So I was like,
Hmm.
I think I can do that. So I went to the New York City Library and I checked out all the books on accent reduction, accent modification, American accent, etc.
Because
And
that's what it was called at the time, if you remember.
Exactly. 10 years
Mhm.
ago, it was called accent reduction. We were trying to reduce someone's accent. And
Mhm.
now we look at it differently. We look at it as modifying or adding something because we don't want to reduce anything about
Mhm.
someone's culture and
Yeah.
being. So, but at the time, it
Mhm.
was a little different. So started working with them. And honestly, I was trying out a lot of different techniques on them. I don't know if that's moral, but there it
I think it's
is.
normal. Yeah, I think it's totally normal to,
Yeah, yeah, it was
yeah,
trial and
to say.
error. And so then I moved to Chicago, then moved to New Orleans, and the doctor contacted me again, Audrey, I need your help. And I was like,
Mhm.
no, I don't live in New York anymore. I can't do it anymore. I'm begging you. You must help me. And so I was like, we can try Skype. We
Mhm.
could try Skype one time. And there was no Zoom. So I begrudgingly did a Skype session with him because I didn't think it would work. I didn't think we could talk about breath and voice and
Yeah.
accent over the computer. However,
Little did you
lo and
know.
behold, it's the
Mhm.
exact same. Not as fun as in person, but it's
Yeah.
pretty much the exact same.
Pretty
So
effective anyways. Yeah,
I wanted
active,
to
yeah.
create a business that way. That was my light
Hmm.
bulb moment of, oh, this is a need that I can meet. It's a
Mhm.
niche that I can grow a business in. And so honestly, I made a website and I just took off from there.
There you
And then
go.
I was pretty adamant about not wanting to coach actors because I was an actor still at the time. And I was like, I do not want to be known as the accent coach or something.
Yeah. Mhm.
However, an actor was working on a Sandra Bullock movie in New Orleans, found my website. He was Bolivian and he was trying to learn an American accent. And he started coaching with me after the movie. He went back to LA. He told all of his Spanish speaking friends in
Mhm.
LA, all the actors. And overnight, almost, it seemed like I had a whole new clientele.
Ah,
And I
uh-huh.
loved it. I was like, oh, these are my
Mm.
people. Like, why have I been holding back? So it was really fun. So now I still coach business professionals of all different industries and actors.
Mhm.
And then those friends who were recommended by the Sandra Bullock guy, they kept recommending other people. It became word of mouth. And then I started getting
Mhm.
bigger and bigger clients and
Mm.
then just started teaching a lot of celebrities.
Yeah. And that's very interesting because you and I are on a parallel path more than I actually thought. Because in my experience, most people who are doing accent coaching,
Mm-hmm.
they come from either a speech therapy background, an English teaching background,
Mm-hmm.
or a theater background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have both, and you didn't just do this, you're still doing the other thing too, which is, yeah, you're working with the same people and you're working with both groups, which is what I do too. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's rare to do both. So I
Well, my
find that
dad is
really
an English teacher. He was an English teacher and English professor, and so I've always loved it.
hmm
And he was actually my teacher in high school. He switched schools to teach me. He taught me
Oh
and
my
my
God.
siblings.
Hmm.
And I got such a great English education
Yeah.
from him, to be honest. He had me do all the extra work, and
Right,
I
right.
ate it up. I
Oh, nice.
loved it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
love language too. So you're coming
Hmm.
from a place of the language, the acting experience too, knowing
Hmm.
knowing the industry a little bit too, but it took a turn into that, and whereas you're
Right.
a little bit reticent too. I find that very interesting. And you mentioned originally you had like a website. So let's talk about how to grow, right, in this niche that
Yeah.
we have, because I feel like there's not a lot of mentors out there, especially for such a very specific thing that you and I are
Hmm.
doing. So we're trailblazing our own way. So I thought maybe we could
Right.
share talking about what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
website, that's basic. What are some of the other things that you've done along the way? Challenges, maybe business challenges, things you didn't
Hmm.
think of before, things you've bulldozed your way through, and where you're at now. Can you bring us up to speed
Yeah.
in terms of the business side?
Totally. You don't want to bulldoze over a website because I would say you should take painstaking time to build a website and to see what other people are doing, to see what you like, and it really represents you. It's your calling card. I'm so
And
picky,
it's
in
different.
fact, that
Oh, sorry.
I hired someone to do it and then I redid it myself. I just this last year during the strikes. Terrible. I've done this several times. So every few years I do like a rebrand.
Absolutely.
And so it was time for me to do it last year, and I'm impatient and picky. And
Hmm.
so my friend who's a web designer was redoing it, and I just was like, you know what? I don't want to give you all of these notes, so I'm
Hmm.
just going to do a bunch of research on how to redo this, and I'm going to do it myself.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you because I think I was the same way. And maybe it's partly our personality. For me, I think it's a need of control. But
Yeah.
I was like, I need to have all the things in there the way I do it. And I made my first website myself too. And
Mm.
it was the best thing on the planet. For
Mhm.
sure, according to me. Of course, it's crap because it doesn't have all the things that they see that I don't see. I am not a website
Right,
professional,
right.
obviously, right? So I feel at least when you first start out, maybe you have time versus money. And so you end
Mhm.
up doing some things yourself because you don't have the money to pay people, but you have the
Mhm.
time. And then there's like a shift in that thing, but there's always a thing where it's hard to find the people who share the same vision as you. At least that's
Right.
what I've had trouble with.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
there are ways to communicate it, and
Mm,
I'm not great at communicating it. Like, I've even hired an assistant, and then I don't know what to tell them because I'm used to doing everything on my own.
hmm.
So, in terms of working on a team or asking for help, I actually didn't know any other coaches or any other people who do what we do until my client won an Oscar.
Oh,
And then other
interesting.
people reached out to me and they were like, "Hi, who are you?" Basically, in a nice way. And I was like, "Oh, you mean
There's more
I
of
can be
us?
friends with people that do what I do? How exciting. Like,
Hmm.
what?" Because I just assumed that since I don't have certifications and such, I assumed that I would not fit in. And I
Mm-hmm,
was coming
hmm.
from a place of fear. I was like, I'm blazing my own trail. I'm doing my own thing. And I'm just going to put my head down and do the work and be the best that I can be, but not include anyone else. on
Mm-hmm.
this journey. And
Mm.
I realized after meeting other people, I was like, oh, this is not the way to go. I do need help. And I
So
still
much
am
better.
struggling and working on asking for help. But as you can
Mm.
see, I've still redone my own website as
Yeah.
recently as last year.
Yeah, and I have trouble not necessarily asking, but evaluating who's the right person to work with. Maybe that's the fear
Mm,
that I have, like choosing the wrong person and like investing in this person and telling them all about my business and my work. And then
mm.
I find out that's not the person for me. That's the fear that holds me back a little bit too. Is finding.
Yeah, that resonates with me as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So one of the best things that helped me was maybe 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I had someone who was an SEO expert sit down and help me. This
Hmm.
was when I was rebranding my website again at one point, or rebuilding it. And a couple things she had me do was, first, in order to think about how I wanted to do my site, she had
Hmm.
me do note cards or big piece of paper with,
Hmm.
okay, here are all the sections, here are
Yeah.
the information, and block them out. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
physically put it all on the floor and I blocked it all out. And I said, what do people need to know? What are the branches of my business? What are people coming for? What do they need to see right away? So that
Hmm.
was really helpful. And then she
Organized.
taught me how to do SEO, which is search engine optimization.
Hmm.
And it takes a few months to kick in once you do it, but that really changed my business a lot.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's
Now,
very
once you
slow.
change things as well, like I changed my website name last year and then it messed up the SEO completely.
It's
So
gonna
I stopped
tank.
getting inquiries. I was like, oh no. So I'm still seeing backlash from that.
Yeah.
And that was a good learning challenge.
It'll bounce back, hopefully, right? You'll get all that back. Yeah.
Oh
Another thing,
yeah, half my
another
clients
thing.
are actors and they've all been out of work for over a year, so
There's that too. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So that kind of thing. But you mentioned SEO. So just for the people who are listening, the difference between SEO, search engine optimization, and what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a different path. I'm working a little bit more on SEA, which is search engine advertising. So basically Google
Ooh.
Ads. Think of it that way. And
Yeah,
so because SEO takes a long time while I'm working on SEO, I have this fantastic person who I love exchanging services.
yeah, me
So
too.
I have a person who is an actress, but also how should I say, her primary
Side
focus in
hustle.
university, no, like her degree, her actual career is in this, right? So
Mm,
they have a company for this, but she's also acting. So it's the perfect exchange of services.
wow.
So yeah, I feel like I'm getting that. I'm learning about that. And that's helping me grow in more of a, I don't know, more a quicker way because like you said, the search engine optimization stuff, it takes a while and it has to be done right. And so all these
Hmm.
little things, I don't know about you, I never knew this.
I've never paid for ads, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a client right now who works for Google and he actually is a salesperson of ads.
Ah,
But his clients spend $30,000 on ads and up.
yeah.
30
Hmm.
to like $100,000, and
Hmm.
he just told me, Audrey, honestly, it won't make a difference unless you're
When
spending a
you're a
ton of
certain
money. It won't
size.
make a
Yeah.
difference. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
all
can tell you
right.
it's the only thing that has made a difference for my stuff lately.
Really?
So,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
skeptical of his advice, even though that
Well,
at some point when you're on that level, on a
yeah.
bigger scale, you don't have a finger on the little scale.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah. You don't have a concept anymore.
how's your experience been with it?
I think it's at first I was also very skeptical too because it's nebulous, right? You put some
Mm-hmm.
money in a box and you don't know if the stuff coming out the other side is a direct result from that. But
Hmm.
now I do. For example, on YouTube, right? I just started a YouTube channel and you can see in the analytics, you can see literally where people are coming from to watch this video. And I can see that most of them are coming from searches and things like that. So now I'm like,
Wow.
it is working at least for that. And I think for some other things it didn't work as well. For example, every month I do a free master class and the topic changes every month. And I wasn't seeing a lot of people join that. And
Mm.
so some of that money that I spent on ads, it did get people there, but not as many as I thought. So I feel like it's trial and error,
Do you do
everything else.
Google ads or Facebook or Instagram, or what do you
Just
do it on?
Google right now, just
Mm-hmm.
Google ads, right? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what this person works on. So, and I'm thinking about maybe other ads too. We'll see. But I feel like it's a trial and error thing that you and I
Mm-hmm.
have to test out, right? So SEO is
Right.
one thing to consider. What's another thing that you feel like you've grown into kind of and taken on as a step?
Yeah. Something that I always try to keep in mind is, what are my goals? What are my big goals?
Mm,
Who are my clients that I want to ultimately help. And I think there's two different categories.
Yeah.
There's the little guys and the big
Mm-hmm.
guys,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Mm-hmm.
little guys are actors and business people who are paying for themselves, who are so rewarding to work with because they've got amazing stories and backgrounds and goals. And it's so exciting when you are able to help them. But those are like pennies compared to the bigger things that you're chasing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to attract larger clients that are, I have some diplomats and a
Mm-hmm.
senator and
Mm-hmm.
big award-winning actors,
Yeah.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more the area that I'm trying to go into. And instead of Google Ads, I invested my money in doing a really fancy podcast.
Ooh,
So I
yeah.
hired a whole film crew. I went to LA and filmed out there in a really fancy hotel suite. I had a bunch of celebrity guests who are clients or colleagues. And so I have that out
Gorgeous.
now.
I've seen it. It's gorgeous. Like your
Thank you.
production. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's a whole huge step up that I feel like we're doing this podcast now, but it's not produced hardly at all. It's edited and it's put
Right.
out there. But my YouTube channel now, oh, that needs to be produced, obviously. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I think what you did was very smart, which is from what I've seen, from what's out there, people are at this level often with their podcasts, and you just leapfrogged all the way
Yeah.
up to here. Why? Why is that so smart? Because everyone else is going to take a lot to catch up. You know what I mean?
It's a
So,
saturated market. So I
yeah,
started doing this last year as a test. I started
mm-hmm,
talking with like B or C list actors,
mm-hmm,
doing interviews about accents, and they were fascinating talks and so much fun, but
yeah,
not very many people watched it at
mm-hmm,
all. It was
mm-hmm,
very hard to get any viewers because it was
yeah,
two people on a computer screen. And
yeah,
so I was thinking, okay, how can I do this that can make noise in a saturated market? Because even if I'm using celebrities who have huge followings and I'm
yeah,
still not getting anywhere with it, what can I do differently? And
mm-hmm.
so I just thought, okay, if I can produce this like a TV show, then we might be going somewhere.
Exactly. That's exactly what it
Is it
looks
a
like. It
huge
looks
waste
like
of
I'm
money?
sitting down to watch
Maybe.
a show. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that was genius. Stroke of genius there,
Well,
I think.
honestly, we'll see. Might be a waste of money, but actually it was like it's a passion project, so it's not actually a
Mm,
waste of money.
mhm.
It costs too
And
much, but it was really fun.
exactly. And it's the kind of thing that's just it's gonna hang around in the cloud basically forever. So
Mhm.
you're always gonna have that. And I don't feel like it's a waste of time or a waste of money. And it's certainly a learning experience that you've gone through. So
A lot of the video production was a learning experience because I've worked on both sides of the camera, but not exactly as a producer and hiring crew. And
mm.
so there were a lot of learning elements of things I might do differently next time.
Almost like when you mentioned earlier, like having a team, reaching out, like the
Hmm.
management side of things is something that I've had to learn a lot about too. Communicating as a manager and delegating, setting
Right.
expectations and things like that. I know I think you used to teach, but I don't know if you taught in a classroom, did you? So that's something that I did as a test also. Like when I first came to Mexico, I was
Hmm.
offered a position to teach in a high school here. And I thought, I've never taught in high school before, but I've taught group classes. So let's see how
Hmm.
this goes.
Yeah.
Not a good fit, by the way. But anyways, I ended up learning something about myself, which is that when I set an expectation for somebody else, I totally assume that they're going to fulfill it. And I don't
Mm.
feel like I need to check up on them or something like that. But learning through that, I was like, oh no, especially high schoolers, like you need to be on them, you have to track their progress and things like that. So that was
Hmm.
something that I learned. I learned my kind of like my management style in that too.
Hmm.
So I've been able to see how that works with other people and at least communicate, look, I'm really hands off or this kind of thing. But I never thought I'd be somebody's manager. I never thought I'd have a team, people that I had
Yeah,
to
I actually
direct.
tried it. I was going to expand at one point, maybe 7 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I hired another teacher, and I was like, I was thinking in terms of some of the other YouTubers who do what we
Yep.
do, but they have a bigger team and they have teachers under them. I was like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. But then, even only after hiring one person under my company name, I was a manager. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't so focused on teaching. And I was like, wait a second. I
Yeah.
love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing this creative work and the back and forth of problem solving. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to manage people. I think that's why I'm still not great at that.
Exactly, but you recognize that and you took a left turn out of it. And I think it's what
Right.
I see for myself too. You've been in this about 10
Right.
years. I've been in it about when was pandemic? About 3, 4 years ago.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
just
Good for
that long.
you.
But I see that future and how what some
Mm-hmm.
people have already done. And I'm like, but I gotta do something different. I gotta do I like I have to picture something else that I don't see in what other people are doing.
And say,
Mhm,
okay, what's my niche? What do I
mhm,
have to offer that's a little bit different? What makes me unique? Who am
mhm,
I? So to do a
mhm.
lot of soul searching, and then it shifts through the years, which is a really cool thing to see happen.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of the business and yourself and what you
Hmm.
want. And like you said before, but wait, that's not actually what I like. Everyone says, oh, do this, and this is how you grow, and this is how you get big. But maybe that's not for me. Maybe that's not for
Right.
you. What their success looks like is not what my vision of success for myself is going to look like. And I still don't have an answer, by the way. What are
That's
you
something I've
thinking
been
of?
thinking a lot about lately, though, because a
Mhm,
lot of people are recommending and obsessed with these books and podcasts and things about being productive by having a 5 a.m. wake up time or by having your segmented time every day to do all these different things. And for years and years, I tried doing those sorts of things and I always felt guilty. I am
mhm,
a super productive person and I love working. And I love doing what I do, but I was feeling guilty all the time. Like I wasn't
mhm,
doing enough and like I could be doing more or differently. And I decided as a New Year's resolution last year, it's like a year and a half ago, I was like, what if I give myself permission to do whatever I feel like,
mhm,
however the wind blows me, wherever
mhm,
my inspiration takes me, and I'm allowed to morph? And I've
mhm.
found that just by giving myself permission, I'm putting in more hours, I'm working way harder, I'm way more productive, and I'm getting so much more done. So
Wow.
I'm having the same results that I was trying to do before, but it's not regimented. But I mean,
Yeah.
it ends up being regimented, but it's coming from a
Mhm.
place of inspiration rather than you have to do this.
From
Like
squeezing
that's
it
why we
out of
don't work for someone else. We work for ourselves because we can't work for someone.
Yeah, not my personality. Yeah, I was not good in a school. I wasn't good with the hierarchical kind of structure of the school, the grinding
Hmm.
of all the gears and things like that. Yeah, I wasn't good at that, but I
I
think
actually
I'm
taught
much.
kids in China. I taught literature to kids in China for about 5 years on the weekends.
Mm,
That was my weekend job. And I only worked with the cream of the crop. It was like an extracurricular school, very expensive boutique
yeah.
school for kids. And I taught all ages. I taught from 7 to 14 or
Mm,
15. And it was a really rewarding experience. And that's what made me realize, like, oh, I don't want to work with everyday people. I want to work with the best of the best.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so that's also what I keep in mind as I'm doing different things to build different sections of my business of, okay, how do I attract the best of the best?
mhm,
Do I
mhm.
have lots of room to grow? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have so much more to learn and so much more to do to build. And I always look at my things and I'm like, it's all half finished. I don't love it. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and like you
It can
said,
be very
it's
stimulating.
all half finished, but you when the inspiration strikes you, you're like, "Oh, I wanna work on this thing." Doesn't mean I'm gonna finish it, but it means I'm gonna get it started, and then when the inspiration comes knocking at the door again, I'll probably come
Right.
around on that. So, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a whole bunch of projects that are unfinished because it's always you, like, thinking and experimenting and those things, so I do the
Right.
same thing. So, I'm
I've
saying
been
we're doing the
working a
right
little harder to finish my things, but
thing.
or to finish what I'm starting, or at least like finish as much as I can before the inspiration runs out. You can feel when it's running out, and you're like, okay, hustle just to finish a little bit
Mhm.
at least.
Mhm. Or get to a point where you can start a thing to test it out and see, because there's a
Right.
whole bunch of things
Right.
that need to happen before you
Mm-hmm.
even, let's say, get on that set of your podcast, right? There's so much that needs to happen. Everyone only sees the result, but they don't see all
Mm-hmm.
the pre-work, all the work, all the post-work too that goes into
Right.
that. So yeah, there's
Right.
just so many things. So where do you feel like you're going to reach those goals of, let's say, the crème de la crème, and how do you what do you feel like you need? You've got the podcast now that you're doing, the
Mm-hmm.
really well produced podcast. What else do you feel like you're gonna give a try to?
That is the mystery because the people who I want to attract, there's no direct line to them,
Mm, mhm.
right? So that's why I'm testing out different things.
Yeah.
Last year I created an executive communication course
Mhm.
for high level or high ranking executives, and that has not been a hit even though I spent a lot of time on it. I was going to film it as a really well produced online course,
Mhm.
and I still have it all, I have 70 pages written out, but I don't know if there's a need for it.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping that with this podcast that can hopefully maybe get some more attention of, oh, this is a Hollywood dialect coach, let's
Give it a
use her for
try.
our really cool
Yeah.
movie.
See what else she's got going on. Yeah, or just
Yeah,
just puts you in
yeah.
it plants the seed of you in other people's minds. And maybe somebody saw it and they mention it to somebody else. So I feel like it's these kinds of things are important these days to cast a really wide net and just
Right.
put that stuff out there to see which fish are going to bite. And then from there, you
Mhm.
can make adjustments, like you said earlier.
Mhm.
So I think that's what I've been
The
working on too.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, the biggest draw for people is when I just make a video that's just talking to the camera, and that's
Hmm.
what I hate because
Mm,
it just feels cheap. I want something a little more produced.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's what people seem to like.
This is what they see, right? It's what's in front of
Yeah,
them, that's for sure.
exactly,
It goes into
exactly.
their
So,
feed. Uh-huh.
so
It gets
I've written out plans over the last 2 years of, I don't know, I have 30 videos planned out. Have I ever filmed them? Nope.
Yeah, but they're there. Oh my God, yeah, my list of
They're
videos to be
ready.
made.
They're ready.
Yeah,
As long as I know what my document is named.
I can find it at
Yeah,
least,
if I
right?
can
Yeah.
find it, then great. I can do it.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
can
Yeah,
knock that out.
but then you always have something ready to go, I feel like too, which is important. You're not sitting around just, how should I say, you're not sitting around just researching things. You're doing them and they're on the back burner. They're ready to
Right.
go for when you need them.
Honestly, I'm
So,
not a great researcher with business things. I'm
mm,
more of a doer. So
mhm.
if I research things, if I spend too much time looking at what other people are doing,
Yeah.
it's like that social media effect. I start to get the imposter syndrome and I'm like, wait, maybe I don't need to be doing this. What is it? They're so cool. What are they doing? I
Uh-huh.
love their blah, 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 blah. What?
Yeah.
So I go into that wallowing world. So I don't spend much time looking at other people's things like that.
Mm,
And I know that about myself, and I know that I'm just a doer. So I'm just gonna put my nose to the grindstone and just try something and
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Whether that's the best path, probably not. That's probably where I need to learn to ask for help of spending a little bit more time reaching out to people and saying, "Hey, have you done this? What happened with it?"
Or like you mentioned about the having a kind of a course already written, 70 pages of stuff. The advice that I ignore every time is, oh, you shouldn't write a course. You should sell the course and then write the course. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I know I should, but that's not how I operate, right? I need to
Yeah, everyone
feel
always says that
prepared.
too.
Yeah, and I feel like you might be right, but it doesn't feel right to me
Mm-hmm.
because maybe I need all that stuff clear in my head before I can tell you about what the course is going to be, for example.
Completely organized already before you shoot it, it's helpful to just have that product as a visceral product. I mean, you can't really
Hmm.
touch it, but
For
to have
yourself,
it
at
as a
least.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to know where you're going, which is very
Mhm.
different from, let's say, one-on-one coaching, because like you said, we are smack up against them. We know their needs as much as possible. And it's
Mhm.
very reactive to me and very
Yeah.
responsive versus doing a course where you're like, oh, I gotta prepare, I gotta know the direction, I gotta know what how chapter three is related to chapter four, and how am I gonna test this stuff at the end? And I feel like it's a whole different process. It's almost like
1,000% agree with you. Yes.
two
Start out
different
every
personalities.
private lesson with a loose plan, a loose idea of
Hmm.
where we're going. I have things pulled up and ready, but if they say one thing, I'm like, "Oh, we're throwing that out the window. I know exactly what you need."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing too is have a good idea, but be prepared to pivot in the moment
Mhm.
too. Being effective is doing the right things and being efficient is doing them well. Does that make sense? Because some people can work really hard and they can be really efficient and really productive, but if you're doing the wrong things, what does it matter? Same thing if you've got a lesson with somebody like, I planned everything out and we're going to stick to the plan. They're going to do a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it might not lead to somewhere where you really need to be.
Especially with coaching accents and communication. With accents, I say, okay, there's two categories we can go in. There's big picture items, there's little picture items. Big picture is like how the language and accent feels,
Mm.
what the sweeping personality traits of it are. The little
Mhm.
picture are all the little sound substitutions that we can put in and sprinkle in, etc. But if you have those without the big
Yeah.
picture, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna feel
Mhm.
embodied. It'll just feel like a fake accent that you are putting on.
It'll feel like
So,
ChatGPT talking to you pretty
mm-hmm,
soon. And that's getting better. But yeah, I think you can do, at least in my experience in Spanish, let's say in French, I don't know what other
mm-hmm,
languages you speak, but like in Arabic too. If you've got big picture, you can fake it till you make it. You
yeah,
can, yeah, if you get the
because that gives you the
sweeping general,
confidence.
yeah, and that gives you to move forward, right? Because a lot of people want confidence in any language, but that's their goal. They think, I want confidence, but confidence is the result of all the other things you do, right? The failures, testing, the figuring things out along the way. That's, I think, what gives you confidence in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for some people, that little picture stuff gives them confidence. Oh, I know this. I know where I'm supposed to put my tongue for this sound. And I know that. And that gives me knowledge and confidence as well. But I think, like we said, big picture stuff, having that kind of gives you the shortcut to the confidence to be able to test out the other things, right? That's just what I was thinking about when you
Now,
said
for
that.
you with business, how do you gauge the big picture and little picture things with like teaching and also doing social media and also doing
Oh
all
my
the
God.
other things? How do you split
Hmm.
your time and kind of manage all of that?
You mean big picture for me and my work, or big picture for my
Yeah.
client? Big picture for me. Oh
Big picture
God.
business talk. Like, how do you build
Yeah.
your business? How do you freelance?
Uh-huh. I think probably the same as you. You got to think long term, and you got to think, what's my ultimate goal? And like I was saying, I've seen other people's goal. No, how should I say? I've seen people and where they've grown to. I don't know if that was a conscious choice, but it seems to be in our field, at least in the, let's say, the English side, not necessarily the dialect coaching side, but it seems to be, yeah, a lot of people, they get big, they hire a bunch of teachers under them. They're no longer doing the thing they want to do. They're just managers, or
Right.
they're doing the headshots and the photo ops and things like that, but they might not be doing the thing that they wanted to do anymore. At least what it looks like from the outside. I'm like, I don't want a team of teachers necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it is I want, but I know what I don't want. So I have to
Yeah.
figure that out still. So that makes it hard to plan, but I do know that long term, whatever that's going to be, in the middle term, let's say, I know that I need more exposure, right? And how do we do that these days? Social media, YouTube, that's what I'm working on as well. So for me to cast that wide net, that's why I started doing the YouTube channel. I started this podcast, very low produced podcast, just to see, does it go? Is there an interest out there? I'm a doer. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, let me do this and see how it goes. And people, there's an interest there for sure. We know there's people out there that need our help. It's hard to find them though. I've found it's very difficult to find people where they're at. And I would say one-on-one accent coaching is not cheap. It's very effective, but it's not cheap. So like you, I've had to kind of balance big ticket clients with being able to support the little guys. For example, I had one woman who worked for the WHO, I believe in Cameroon, I think it was. And she was a delight, right? French was her first language, but she worked for the WHO and she worked with women and children's health, reproductive health. Oh my God, I loved helping her because I knew in the end I was helping other people to understand and be healthy. And I want to be able to do that, but I can't afford it unless I've got the big ticket items. But like you said, I love working with those people too. So it's not just a means to an end, but it's a way that I can balance those things too. And in the meantime, trying to spread the word about really just generating interest, because I think, like you said earlier, oh my God, this is a job. There's other people who do this. Let's like spread the word because this is cool. This is so interesting how people talk, how they think about it. To me, it's a bit of a social justice issue, combating prejudice and bias and things like that. So I think those are my passions. I don't see the end goal, but I do see that no matter what the end goal is, you've got to get yourself out there so that people can find you because they have a hard time finding what they need.
I think it's really interesting as well because you're starting this business a little later. I think it's really unique to start a business when you're not in your 20s, when you're a little bit, I don't know how old you are, you don't have to say, but I
At the
started a
time of
business in my
recording.
30s here where I became a jazz singer. I live in New Orleans. And so
I was going to ask you
yeah,
about
I'm a
that.
jazz singer. So I had quit acting like 4 years ago when I got pregnant. I just burned out with that. And I realized that I was a really mediocre actor and there was no need for my voice because I could actually put all that time and effort into helping really amazing actors elevate their performances.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, why don't I just do that? That's, yes, this feels so much better for my soul. But I did need an artistic outlet. And so finally I found singing a couple years ago. I've always been a singer somewhat, but I had quit for a while. My dad's a musician as well, so I grew up on stage with him. And so I started a business in my 30s of freelancing singing.
Yeah.
And the mindset and approach that I have is so different than starting this coaching business in my 20s because I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to say that I don't know everything or to say, hey, this is not quite a finished product, but here it is. Here's the best I can do at this very moment. Here it is. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also not afraid to hustle a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
or just to get to know people who are at the top of the top. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, when I started my coaching business, I didn't meet any other people who were doing what I was doing for fear, out of fear, for 5, 6 years. So it's been really a fascinating experience for me. How has it been for you?
Oh, yeah, exactly. I would say, let me think about what you just said. I want to let it soak in too. I feel I'll have more to say later on, but the age thing, the maturity thing,
Mhm.
right? The experience thing, I think that brings a lot to the table because
Yeah.
like you said, I know now what is a waste of my time. What is the thing that maybe I needed to do it back then? Maybe I needed
Mhm.
to build my own website because I didn't have the money to pay anybody. And I was also busy working at the high school, so I didn't have time as well. But I thought, okay, I can make those choices now with more conviction. And I can
Mhm.
say, I can drop things more easily. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I can quit
Mm.
things with more confidence, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I think when you're younger, when I was younger, I had a fear of quitting. At the same time, I had a
Mhm.
fear of success, which is a problem. But I feel like when I was younger, I couldn't quit anything, right? I had to do everything, I
Yeah.
had to do it all. And like you just mentioned, like, why am I spending my time on this when I can actually help more people and be happier doing this other
Mhm.
thing? And I think that's what I'm faced with right now, right? Is balancing how much time do I have for one on one clients and
Mhm.
how much time do I have now for, let's say, video production or these or management
Mhm.
or things like that. I'm trying to keep that in check. One thing I found useful for myself, I don't know if you do this, but I'm obsessed with keeping track of my time, right? How much time did I spend, I don't know, answering emails today? How much time did I spend writing scripts for videos? And then I can just
What?
look at that and I can say, you know what, last month I was doing less of this and now I'm doing more of this. Is that what I want? And I can change what I'm doing in that way.
Wait,
And I
how do
can
you keep
see,
track of it?
okay, the app that I use, there's tons of apps out there, but the app that I use, it's called Toggle,
Uh-huh.
Togl. They have a free tier and then they have a paid tier as well. So whenever I'm doing a task, I just hit
Mhm.
start. And then at the end of the week or the end of the month, you can get a report. And for example, I've got how much of my time is going towards YouTube. Okay, so I've got big chunks of the pie. There's YouTube, there's, I don't know, let's say Google Ads, right? There's
Mhm.
all these things we talked about. How much time am I actually spending with clients? I do group classes as well. How much have I doing with the group clients? How much time do I spend on outreach, reaching out to you and be like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? That's
Reaching out to me 7 times, be like, and I'm like, "Yeah, I forgot, I
and
forgot."
I'm like, it's cool, we got plenty of time. And but I'll track that time so that
Wow.
I can know how much maybe that's just me being obsessive, but I feel like it's really important because if you know what how you want to spend your time, you can see if that's what you're doing or not. So for me, that's been one of my biggest tools, honestly, like for that.
Hmm.
And yeah, so for me, that's been great. And then I can decide what I want to drop, right? Because before I had a fear of quitting things, but now
Mhm.
I'm at the same mindset of view as whereas like I don't see it as quitting, I see it as strategically putting my energy into other things, if that makes sense.
This is such a good lesson in how people do things differently because that sounds like absolute torture to me. If I have to track myself, I'll feel like I'm working for someone else, and I'll feel
Ah,
like I'm in trouble of, oh, I always tell people I'm a really tough boss and a really shitty employee. So I'm constantly
like
fighting with
teachers and
myself.
students. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great teacher,
exactly. I'm
terrible
like,
student. Yeah.
Audrey, you didn't do that for long enough. You were gonna write video scripts for 1 hour and you did 3 minutes. And I'll be like, but I wanted to do this other thing. That sounds disastrous for me.
Oh, you know what? But what you mentioned, I do the same thing. I'm like, I don't plan ahead, actually, not too much. I
Hmm.
don't think I'm going to write this script for an hour. No, I do a thing. And then I look back and I say, okay, I started that about 3 o'clock. It's now 3:50. Cool. I'll mark that. And then when I'm in the middle of doing something else, I realize, wait, I'm not writing a script anymore. I'm doing emails. When did I start that? So I'm following my flow. I'm just
Mm,
tracking it as well. So I feel like I can see how you would think like the clock is my overlord, but
yeah.
really it's me just not keeping myself accountable. But how should I say? It's me patting myself on the back and saying
Mm,
I wrote that script for half an hour today. There was no
yeah.
expectation to write it for
Yeah.
an hour. So whatever I did today, that's awesome. I can look back and I can
Mm-hmm.
say, look at all the stuff I did today. Look at all this work that I
Mm,
did. And then over time, I can see like how that time is shifting from, let's say, I don't know,
mm.
marketing to emails to whatever.
I see.
So for me, it's very self-affirming to be like,
Huh.
look at all the things I'm doing. I'm awesome.
Yeah. I think I learned my time management skills from my mother, who's a visual artist. She's a painter.
Mm.
And so I think the reason why I built a business or why that seemed like the only viable option for me is because I watched her build a business of
Ah.
art. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
she had
Which is also
um
difficult.
yeah, she had brain tumors removed that were both there were two pear-sized brain tumors in her head that she got removed when I was 12, and
Mm-hmm.
after that her personality changed and she was like, I have to become an artist and I need to
Huh.
paint. It was bizarre
Ah,
and really cool.
that's
But
interesting.
at that formative age, I got to watch her build skills and then build a business and learn
Mm-hmm.
to freelance. And she went through different phases of like just learning different skills. And then she was a muralist, and then she was learning different mediums. And then now she splits her time. She makes her money by painting the sunrise every morning.
Hmm.
And she's done that. She's in her 19th year of painting the sunrise every morning. It's just started as like a daily
Wow.
journal of gratitude of, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm still alive. Thank
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I get to see another day. And she only does that in the morning. And then the rest of the day, she does other kinds of art. And she's the most prolific artist that I know of. She just does art all day. She does other things too, but she'll get so inspired by a series she's doing. She'll wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning just so she can go work on it because she's so
Wow.
excited to do it. And she's 69 and
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm.
still so inspired by her own work. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
she doesn't track her things. This is where I got the idea of let it go. I'm just going to I'm going to get all my things done, but do what
Mm-hmm.
inspires me and go
Mm-hmm.
into that rabbit hole. Cuz she told me if you're not doing that, if you're not following your inspiration, you might be holding yourself back of
Mm.
something you could achieve.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, how like other people's definition of success or what they think you need to do to quote unquote succeed, it's maybe not what you really need. And once you think about
Mhm.
that, then you can direct yourself much better, right? Following your own
Right.
passions. Yeah, it's funny because here's another thing we have in common that we didn't even know. I also had a brain tumor probably about
Really?
20 years ago. Yeah, more chicken egg size, let's say, not so much a pear size, just one, but it was on my hearing and balance nerve. And
Oh, wow.
after that, so I'm deaf in this ear now, and I have some facial paralysis because of it, but survived.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
am I going to do with this time? I think that's also why I feel a need to track the time to feel, because for me, it's partly gratitude as well.
Yeah.
And being
Okay,
like,
that
look at
makes
these things
sense.
that I can
Yes.
do. Yeah. Look, how can I reach the most people and help the most people with the resources that I have? Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of us feel maybe even shame or sleaziness of selling and marketing and things like that. But I'm
Mhm.
trying to look at it from a point of view of I have to do these things so that I can help more people. Oh,
That's how you have to look at it, otherwise it feels
yeah,
nasty.
gross. Yeah, so gross. So I think that also is it's in the back of my mind. I don't think about it too much, but I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I had a brain tumor too. That probably
Wow.
drives me in some way as
Mm.
well.
Did that
So
affect your hearing to be able to understand different accents and hear languages?
it's funny because when I first noticed something was going on with my hearing, I was still in university. This was a while ago. And
Mhm.
I was a nerd, obviously, always sat in the front seat, always. And I remember one class, I was taking notes, looking down, and I had to clean my glasses. So I took my glasses off and I cleaned them. And I realized I couldn't hear what he was saying suddenly. Put my glasses on, take them off. Why can I not hear my teacher who's right in front of me? Why can I not hear my
Oh, that's
teacher when my
scary.
glasses were off? Found out later, realized later, I was learning to read lips. Didn't even realize. I was reading this guy's lips. And when I took my glasses off, I couldn't see his lips. So
No.
yeah. So later, when I found out I had a problem with
Whoa.
my balance, later, those two things got put together. And I, at first, my balance, I thought, oh, I think I have some fluid in my ear, right? So I went to a specialist. He's like, that's not fluid. That's a brain tumor, and we need to operate immediately because it's too big, right? It's
Oh
just
my
too big.
God.
So it had been growing slowly for a big chunk of my life, and I didn't know it until it reached this critical mass. I had learned to read lips because I didn't know I was going deaf, had no idea in this ear. And so by that time, it wasn't like I lost my hearing. It was already long gone.
Mm.
So I think I had compensated my hearing and my balance with only one nerve on this side.
Wow.
So it wasn't like I had to work that hard because I had already done the work. So
Right.
I think, I'm sure it did. It just wasn't conscious how that
Yeah.
happened. But I'm sure I listened more closely than normal people would. And also, I have this other thing, maybe it's called auditory processing disorder.
Mhm.
So when I hear things, I'm probably hyper analytical about them, which I'm like, cool, that makes me good at my job. But it makes me terrible at other things like remembering a sequence of instructions that you've given me orally. I'm like, write it
Yeah.
down because I won't remember, right? Or song lyrics, forget about it. I always mix them up,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Always need the captions on. Even in English first language, I need those captions there.
Yeah.
I don't hear without the captions, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So I think I just process things a little bit differently. Like when you speak, when anybody speaks, I have a running ticker tape of words
Yeah.
of what I think you're saying, right? So I've combined the audio and the visual to that
Mm-hmm.
too. And everybody processes language differently, right? So it's been helpful for me to see that in myself and also
Right.
talk to other people. Like, when you hear this, what do you think of? Do you hear the sounds? Do you picture the letters? Like, in your first language, what was that like for you? Because so
Mm-hmm.
much of that plays into things too. So it helps me a
Mm.
lot to get into the mind of other
Yeah,
people.
that's fascinating. I
Yeah, yeah.
think that is interesting how other people learn and process because that helps your teaching as well. Because you're like, I always ask, okay, how do you learn best? Because since we teach
Hmm.
adults, they know themselves better than we know them. So
Yeah.
that's usually my first question is, have you tried to learn any other sounds or languages or accents before? And what helped you? Like what
Yes.
worked for you? What didn't work for you? And
Hmm.
usually
Hmm.
people can tell you exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that gets you like light years ahead of
Oh,
where
yeah.
most people might start.
Mhm.
Yeah. And probably you probably know yourself as a teacher. Like, how do you teach best? Oh, I
Yeah.
teach best in person. I teach best, I don't know, with slides and examples. I teach best off the cuff. And
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, I think that also makes it so when you find the right fit with a client, it just makes it that much more rewarding.
Totally.
Hmm.
And it makes it rewarding to be able to teach other people who don't learn like you. I do
Hmm.
not have a technical mind at all. And so when I teach a lot of like engineers and mathematicians and
Yeah.
those types of people, and so when they need more structure, I can teach like that. It's a struggle, but it's
Yeah.
a really great exercise for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
'Cause it's
And
like my brain does not work like that.
yeah, but I recognize that yours does, so I'm gonna do what
Mhm.
I can for that. And like what you said earlier, you probably learn those skills from other clients that you've had in the past and just talking to them. For
Mhm.
example, you said, "Oh, I'm not so analytical." I'm the opposite. I'm super analytical, and I forget that a lot of
Mhm.
people don't learn that way, and they need to have the feeling. And I don't mean
Yeah.
kinesthetically in the mouth, like how does it feel? Does it feel angry? Does it feel this? Like and I forget about that, but I've learned that from other people,
That's
so
my
I'm able to
bag.
say it.
Mm. That's what I love. I'm like, "Ooh, let's, like, get
Yeah.
into this." It doesn't have to be too touchy-feely 'cause,
Yeah.
you have to keep in mind you're not teaching theater actors most of the time.
Mhm.
If you
Mhm.
are, that's okay, you can go way into that. But most of the time, you're teaching film actors who are cool
Mhm.
or business professionals who are also cool.
Mhm.
You gotta make it approachable, make that work less
Exactly.
hippy-dippy.
Yeah, for some people that's
Mhm.
perfect, but I wouldn't think of it at first. But if they mention something, you're like, oh wait, maybe this would be a good technique for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Exactly.
I feel like we come from kind of similar, surprisingly similar tracks in a
We
way.
do.
We've come to a place where we're both trying to still grow our business,
Mhm.
get our name out there, get our goals met, and help the people
Mhm.
that we want to help too. So what do you feel like is in your future?
For a lot of the For a lot of this, actually, I cannot control it, really.
Mm.
I can come prepared. I
Yeah.
can do what I can to present myself to the world, and I just hope that I can attract people who I gel with. What I
Hmm.
would like more my mission is for on-screen stuff and for movies. I want to help elevate performances and voices of people who have been historically underrepresented. And
Ooh,
I want to
nice.
help them tell their stories on a really high level. That's why
Yeah.
this past year I also started coaching acting as well,
Ah.
because I realized I was doing that all along as well. Because I would just sneakily coach acting with their
Mhm.
dialect coaching and be like, can you
Yeah.
do that again? Or just try that again? Or what do you think your character's feeling? Or would give them little prompts. And so now I've been leaning into that a little bit more of, okay, we can do your accent, but your performance also has to be amazing. Like they
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
be both there in
Mhm,
order
mhm.
to sell this
Yeah, yeah,
and in order to
exactly.
tell the best story that you can tell. So that really excites me. And for other non-actors, I want to help great people be even greater. And I
Mm,
want to help them connect to others all around the world and to help them again elevate their platform so that their work can be touching and
yeah.
their work can feel good at the end of the day. They can feel like they've given everything they need to give, they've
Mhm.
been able to package it in a way that is understandable to the people they're trying to reach.
Like when you say connection, to me, that's one of the main things, communication, connection, how you feel about yourself and your, even
Mm-hmm.
in business performance, we can call it, right? As a teacher, I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I was performing quite a lot. Yeah, it's about really helping that person be the best that they want to be and can be. And that could
Yeah.
be in multiple languages, multiple situations. Yeah, I love
Right.
all of that. I'm right there with you. I feel like we're way more alike than I originally thought in this first discussion. And so, in this journey that you're doing, how can people find you? Is there something that people can do to connect with you, maybe to something that you would like them to be a part of as well? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. You can always go to my website, audreylacrone.com, LECRONE.com. But my new thing that I'm doing that I've just released is my podcast. It's called Unmuted, or The Unmuted Show. And so you can find little clips and things on Instagram at the.unmuted.show, or TikTok, the.unmuted.show, or under my name, Audrey Lacrone. And then also the website is unmutedshow.com. And you can find it all on YouTube as well.
And I think you said it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too,
Yes,
right?
it's on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And what I'm doing in that is I'm talking to celebrities, mostly actors from around the world, who are, I talk to them about their relationship with their voice and their accent. And I talk to
Awesome.
them about accent bias, which is a concept that you and I may know a lot about, but also that is not really, it's not really a big concept for the rest of the world outside of linguists. It's this idea that you can get discriminated against by the sound of your voice or your accent. And a lot of people have had this happen to them, where it's not okay to judge someone by their race or their gender or their nationality, supposedly, or whatever. And it is okay to judge them by, "Ooh, I don't like their voice. I don't like their accent, sounds uneducated," something like that. And so it's something that I want to bring more awareness to with this podcast,
Yeah.
and hopefully lessen that, and also increase the representation of voice diversity on screen in Hollywood.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I love all of that. For the social justice aspect, unless you have lived that experience of having your voice be discriminated against or held against you in
Mhm.
some way, you can't know what it feels like. And
Mhm.
so I think, yeah, for a lot of people, it seems to be the last kind of invisible prejudice that seems to be socially acceptable, but is totally not.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is just awareness too. And also for me, a nerdy kind of awareness of like how we are all human and how we have this, most of us have similar mouth, some kind of apparatus for
Mhm.
speaking, and we can phonate. And thinking about, wow, what are all the different things that we can do? Or what are all the different things that we do in this culture, in this language? And just, I think, sharing my passion with other people too.
Mhm.
So raising that awareness, making it fun, making it interesting, like for you, maybe making that connection as well. To me, that's the pearl inside of this job that we have, that we get to do. Not that we
Totally.
have to do,
It's
but
very
yeah.
exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
super
We get to
exciting.
we get to help people feel seen.
Or heard, right? Seen and heard.
Uh-huh.
Aha. I'm surprised
Uh,
that's the only pun I've made this whole time. Because I'm all about the puns. I want to thank you again, Audrey, for coming today to talk about all these things, because I think it's super inspirational for people like us who are trying to forge ahead, making our own path, right? We have some
mhm.
kind of models, but we're like, but maybe not quite exactly that. So it's a little bit uncharted in a way, and we're trying to do the best we can to help the most people that we can. Yeah, your insight is
Thank you, Bianca,
invaluable
and thank you for doing this podcast. And I can't wait to see how your career is launched forward in the future.
Both of us. Yes, we're going to keep closer tabs on each other now. I'm sure
Yeah,
of it.
totally.
And we'll probably do another episode together. If anybody has any questions in the meantime, the best place to find you is on your website, right? Or
Mhm.
Instagram, TikTok, any of those social
Yep.
media outlets, correct?
Yep. On
Awesome.
Instagram, I'm American Accent Coaching. Great.
Awesome.
Great,
Thanks,
great.
guys. Yeah.
Thank
Talk to you soon
you.
then. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Catch you later.
And thanks for tuning in to this wonderful conversation. And again, thank you, Audrey, for sharing your meaningful experiences. We've learned a lot about confidence, inspiration, and community from them. And see you in the next episode.
If you found this episode helpful in any way, please subscribe and leave a review. It's actually really helpful to me. Now, before I go, I have 2 tasks for you to do. First, I want you to register and come to my free monthly masterclass. They're on the last Thursday of the month. In just 1 hour, you're going to master a specific American accent skill. For example, the TH sound or rhythm. The Zoom registration link actually changes each month. So the second and maybe more important thing I want to ask you to do is to sign up for my mailing list, because you're going to get the registration link each month and you're going to get bonus materials before and after the masterclass that I only send to my email list subscribers. The email opt-in link is down in the show notes. Be sure to sign up for my mailing list and come to the monthly masterclass for free. I'm Bianca, your personal American accent coach, and I want you to know that your voice is your choice. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the show. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.